good to have you here. Did you watch the State of the Union address tonight?
I did.
What did you make of it?
Well, you know what he's going to do, right? I mean, we've heard all this
I don't
before.
think any of us have any idea what he's going to do.
The State of the Union speeches for Trump are all the same. You know, he says pretty words tonight, and then tomorrow morning at 5 a.m., he's going to tweet out a storm about somebody being an idiot or, you know, that just whatever he's going to tweet out. The problem with this president is that we can't trust his words anymore because his actions just don't match those. And so, you know, he said a lot of stuff today, but we'll see how it goes.
So there was stuff in the speech that you responded positively to. Because there's also a lot of pretty crazy-sounding stuff, and there's a lot of talk. It almost sounded like somebody was reading a synopsis of Game of Thrones at one point.
Well, I mean, like, you know, he's focused on unity. If he wants to unify people, the first thing that he should do is unite those parents who have been separated from their children at the border.
He did speak a lot about how much he cares about children and their lives, and yet, yes, we do have that issue that is unresolved.
Well, and, you know, there's 7 million people, for instance, that have lost health care coverage during this administration.
Yes.
You know, if he wants to make an investment, instead of putting billions of dollars in a wall, he should put billions of dollars toward Medicare for all, so that everybody can have health care in this country. And so, well, there are things that we can do to get on the right track.
Or the veterans that he speaks a lot about, wanting to help and improve the VA, and that would be another great place to put that money. You support Medicare for all?
I do.
Would this be a situation where that would be it? Like Elizabeth Warren talked about Medicare for all, and that would be it. You couldn't have supplemental insurance or your own insurance. In your plan, would one be able to have their own private insurance?
You know, as you know, Jimmy, and folks out there know, countries around the world that have health insurance for everybody do it in different ways. I think that we can get to a point where if people want to have a supplemental plan, that they can do that. But we need to make sure, first and foremost, that anybody in this country that needs health care can get it. I don't believe fundamentally that the profit motive should drive whether somebody gets health care or not. So that's my first concern.
Right, right. Now, have you been to many of these State of the Union addresses yourself?
I've been to a couple of them. Yeah, I served as housing secretary for Obama. Yeah.
Your job, Ben Carson now has your old job.
I saw him tonight. Yeah, I saw him. He was there.
Yeah, he was awake and everything. I was proud of him. He stayed up through the whole thing. Is that an uncomfortable situation to be in, where half of the crowd is applauding and half of it's sitting there?
First of all,
like
it's
this?
not uncomfortable if you have a superstar president like Obama that's delivering the speech, right?
Well, wait a minute. When you say...
We always, like, we knew walking into the room that he was well prepared, that he was going to deliver an inspirational speech. Mm-hmm. Sure, it's a little bit weird that you have folks that sit on their hands at some points and everybody else is clapping. The other thing that's weird, you know, I became a cabinet member at 39. I think I was like one of the youngest people in the room. Everybody there looks old.
Right.
You know, and so you kind of feel out of step with the room. There were also a few moments over the years where people were pretty disrespectful to the president. You remember the guy that stood up and said, "You lie"?
Yeah, where was he tonight? Why was he not yelling, "You lie"? What was his name?
Joe Wilson from South Carolina.
Yeah. Maybe he had
He chose the wrong president. Yeah, he chose the wrong president.
If he's that angry about lying, boy, he must have just had his head spinning tonight.
You know? But, you know, I do agree that this is a night where, as Americans, more people tune in than any other night.
Yes.
And that we all hope that the country can be more united and that we can find a sense of common purpose, a sense of common identity, because I think that's what's been missing. And for me, that purpose starts with the idea that everybody counts in this country. Whether we're talking about those kids at the border or, you know, today, Trayvon Martin would have been 24 years old. We think about the way that people, because of the color of their skin or their background, are treated in this country. We need to get to a point, whether it's with education, health care, jobs, where no matter who you are, where you come from, you're treated the same way in this country. Do
you think there are people who genuinely believe that everyone is treated the same way? Because that seems to be the case. There's people kind of, they disregard that there's any difference in the way people are treated if they're, you know, a different race or religion or any of those sorts of things.
Well, I think that there are some people that believe that. I don't think that that's the case right now. I think that we've made a lot of progress over the last several decades, but we still have a lot of progress to make. In fact, one of the worst things that I think this president has done is taken us backward, whether it's that incident in Charlottesville and how he addressed that, or the constant scapegoating of immigrants that he engages in.
He does seem rather intent on, on picking. Of course, when you have a group of people, some of the people are going to be bad people, but he does seem to want to point that out. It's almost like he's rooting for it.
Yeah, I mean, the next president needs to be somebody that is trying to unite the country.
All right, let me find out if you're qualified to be president. You ready? Have you ever...
I can tell you now the answer is yes.
Have you ever bankrupted a casino?
I have not. I think I've almost gone bankrupt because I've gone to the casino.
Have you ever stared directly into an eclipse?
Not.
This is an important one. Have you ever asked an adult film star to spank you with a magazine during Shark Week?
I know I have not done that one.
How do you pronounce the word China? Oh, I just gave the answer away. What does KFC stand for?
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
That is that? Well, yeah, you got a few of them.
There you go.
You got a few of them.
I'm old enough to remember that. I'm old enough to remember
Thank you for coming. I hope this experience is a positive one for you and for everyone. Is it possible that you might want to be vice president if the president thing doesn't work out?
No. I've been there and done that last time.
No, that was Joe Biden. That was a different guy. You want to be president?
I'm running for
I wish you the best. Julián Castro, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thanks for watching. And remember, every time you click the subscribe button, one of your enemies gets destroyed.